temple classes. This I'm new to singing these prayers, so actually first time. So we'll see how we go. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yasodanandana Rajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Rajana Ranjana Yamunatila Vanachari Yamunatila Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Sodanandana Rajana Ranjana Sodanandana Rajana Ranjana Yamunatila Vanachari Yamunatila Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavad-gita. Are you all familiar with the Bhagavad-gita? Somewhat familiar? Yeah? Somewhat familiar. Does it sound okay? Yeah. Alright, so today we're reading in chapter 2, text 8. Chapter is entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized. So what I'll do is that I'll just, the verse is on the board, so I'll just say the verse, and if you can try and repeat after me. Just try your best. I'm not very good either, but we're all here to learn, so we'll get through it. So, Nahi prapasyami mama panudyad yak chokam uchasanam indriyanam avapya bhumav asapatam ridam rajam surnam api kadit patiyam. Nahi prapasyami mama panyudyat yakchokam uchastam indriyanam avapya bhumav asapatam ridam rajam surnam api charit patiyam. Nahi prapasyami mama punyadyat yakchokam uchasam indriyam avapya bhumav asapatanam ridam rajam surnam api charit patiyam. Would anyone like to give it a go? No pressure, it's okay. No. It's a beautiful language, the Sanskrit language, but just difficult to pronounce. Anyway, we'll move on to word for word. So I'll just say the word and you can just repeat after me. Na, do not. He, certainly. Papasyami, I see. Mama, my. Apanyudyat, can drive away. Yat, that which. Sokam, lamentation. Uchasanam, drying up. Indriyanam, of the senses. Avapya, achieving. Bhumayo, on the earth. Asapatyam, without rival. Ridam, prosperous. Rajam, kingdom. Suranam, of the demigods. Api, even. Cha, also. Adipatyam, supremacy. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. I can find no means to drive away this grief which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to dispel it even if I win a prosperous, unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like that of the demigods in heaven. Purport. Although Arjuna was putting forward so many arguments based on the knowledge of the principles of religion and moral codes, it appears that he was unable to solve his real problem without the help of the spiritual master, Lord Sri Krishna. He could understand that his so-called knowledge was useless in drying away his problems, which were drying up his whole existence. And it was impossible for him to solve such perplexities without the help of a spiritual master like Lord Krishna. Academic knowledge, scholarship, high position, etc. are all useless in solving the problems of life. Help can be given only by a spiritual master like Krishna. Therefore, the conclusion is that a spiritual master who is 100% Krishna conscious is the bona fide spiritual master, for he can solve the problems of life. Lord Chaitanya said that one who is a master in the science of Krishna consciousness, regardless of his social position, is the real spiritual master. Kiba Vripa Kiba Nyasi Sudra Kene Naya Ye Krishna Tattva Veta Se Guru Haya. It does not matter whether a person is a Vipra, learned scholar in Vedic wisdom, or is born in a lower family, or is in the renounced order of life. If he is a master in the science of Krishna, he is the perfect and bona fide spiritual master. So without being a master in the science of Krishna consciousness, no one is a bona fide spiritual master. It is also said in the Vedic literature, Satkama Nipuna Vipro Mantra Tatra Visada Avasnaivo Guru Nasyad Vasnava Swapacha Guru. A scholarly Brahmana, expert in all the subjects of Vedic knowledge, is unfit to become a spiritual master without being a Vaishnava or expert in the science of Krishna consciousness. But a person in a family of a lower caste can become a spiritual master if he is a Vaishnava or Krishna conscious, from the Padma Purana. The problems of material existence, birth, old age, disease, and death cannot be counteracted by accumulation of wealth and economic development. In many parts of the world, there are states which are replete with all facilities of life, which are full of wealth and economically developed. Yet the problems of material existence are still present. They are seeking peace in the problems of material existence. Yet they are problems of material existence are still present. They are seeking peace in different ways, but they can achieve real happiness only if they consult Krishna, or the Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which constitute the science of Krishna, through the bona fide representative of Krishna, the man in Krishna consciousness. If economic development and material comforts could drive away one's lamentations for family, social, national or international inebrities, then Arjuna would not have said that even an unrivaled kingdom on earth or supremacy like that of the demigods in the heavenly planets would be unable to drive away his lamentations. He sought, therefore, refuge in Krishna consciousness, and that is the right path for peace and harmony. Economic development or supremacy over the world can be finished at any moment by the cataclysms of material nature. Even elevation into a higher planetary situation, as men are now seeking on the moon planet, can also be finished at one stroke. The Bhagavad-gita confirms this. Kishni punye matya lokam vishanti. When the results of pious activities are finished, one falls down again from the peak of happiness to the lowest status of life. Many politicians of the world have fallen down in that way. Such downfalls only constitute more causes for lamentation. Therefore, if we want to curb lamentation for good, then we have to take shelter of Krishna, as Arjuna is seeking to do. So Arjuna asked Krishna to solve his problem definitely, and that is the way of Krishna consciousness. Omegantamanandasya gyananjana sharakya chaksuvanmiritamyena tasma shri guruve namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yene Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kiramayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru and Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagritam Sahagana Raginapitam Jivam Sadvaitam Sahutam Parigan Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Rachta Shri Vishkatam Sitamscha Hey Krishna Kruna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishobhani Sute Devi Pranamani Hari Pre Vanchikalparupascha Kripa Sindhu Evicha Patinam Pavanepyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadha Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. There was somebody else was supposed to speak today, and they couldn't make it, unfortunately. But yeah, I've been able to come in short preparation time, try and see what I can deliver. So during my devotional life so far here at New Govardhana, I try to follow a bit of a criteria of how to accept services, and the first thing is that I accept the service according to my dharma. That's the most important way to begin your devotional life, is accepting a service according to your dharma. So dharma is basically your duty, your purpose in this world. So Krishna says in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad-gita to just do your dharma. Do your duty, do what you're wired for. We all come into this world with a specific purpose and an offering to give to the world. Just stick to what you are meant to do. Don't try and look around and see what others are doing, try and compare and compete with others. Just stick with what you are good at and do it nicely for Krishna. So that is the first step in finding or accepting service. Krishna actually repeats that verse in the 18th chapter, so really emphasizing the importance of doing your dharma. And the second thing that I take into consideration when accepting service, and all service is good, by the way. We should not neglect service. The service is what we're looking for. But the second thing is that I try to do a service that will please the devotees. Try to please Guru. And every morning when we come for for the morning program, we sing a prayer, the first morning prayer that we sing. And what we say is we say, Yasa Prasada, Bhagavat Prasada. So that is saying that we're looking to please the devotees. We want to please our Guru, and when we do that, it pleases Krishna. And the third criteria, part of the criteria, is that I try to do a service occasionally, as whenever possible. I do a service that has me crying out for Krishna, and makes me feel somewhat surrendered and in the hands of Krishna. So this is somewhat what I'm doing here now, is as I'm crying out for Krishna to help me to say something of value, say something of significance, or basically just say something that represents Srila Prabhupada's teachings. So I ask for the blessings of all of you that I can do that. So not only do I chant Hare Krishna to connect with Krishna, obviously we want to connect with Krishna and pray to Krishna to get strength from Krishna. But also I like to read the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. And the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita is entitled The Universal Form. And in this chapter, Krishna, he gives Arjuna the supreme confidence in life. So from time to time, or quite often, we may be lacking in confidence, feeling a little bit of fearful and a little bit in anxiety. But when I feel like this, I also like to read the Bhagavad-gita, and specifically the 11th chapter, because in the 11th chapter, Krishna reveals his universal form to Arjuna, and Arjuna sees it, and so he basically sees the entire universe within Krishna. And what he sees is that on the battlefield, all the warriors, all the soldiers are dying. Arjuna's enemy are all being killed. So Krishna then says to Arjuna, just get up and fight. It's a foregone conclusion. All you have to do is turn up. Just turn up and do your duty. Conquer the enemies, enjoy a flourishing kingdom, because they are already put to death by my arrangement. All you need to be is an instrument in the hands of Krishna. And so when we understand that all we are is an instrument, and we put ourselves in line with Krishna, Krishna can work wonderful things through us. Because we are small, we are very limited in our abilities, and we are also insignificant in a lot of ways. But Krishna, he is unlimited, he is huge, he is most significant. And so if we work in Krishna's plan, then we can ultimately do great things. We become empowered, and we can please Krishna. So up until this point, we're just in the beginning of the second chapter. And in the previous chapter, the first chapter, Arjuna has basically just poured out his heart to Krishna. He's completely confused, bewildered. He's just lost all composure. He's crying. He doesn't know what to do. And so now in the beginning of the second chapter, he's beginning to realize that he's unable to solve the problems that he has and find happiness in life by himself. So the Bhagavad-gita is a book of questions and answers. And the Bhagavad-gita teaches us that if we want to know something, if we want to solve the problems of life, if we want to achieve happiness, permanent happiness, we have to ask questions. So you must always ask questions. Right from the beginning of life, it's important to ask questions. Ask why. Why am I here? Where am I? What am I doing here? What is the purpose of my life? How can I achieve happiness? Why am I always suffering? These sorts of questions we are encouraged to ask, and therefore we'll find answers. So Krishna in the previous verse, he has just finally surrendered to Krishna. He has figured out that I need help. Just like in our lives, we also might need some help from time to time. So he surrendered to Krishna and he said, I'm confused about my duty. Please instruct me. Tell me what is best for me. So in the Nectar of Devotion, another book written by Srila Prabhupada, it's actually a summary study of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu written by Rupa Goswami. And this Nectar of Devotion, it gives instructions or gives knowledge as to how to perform devotional service. So it goes in greater detail as the process of devotional service. And so in the 7th chapter, it's entitled Evidence Regarding Devotional Principles. And it starts off with a verse from the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's a discussion between Prabhupada and Maharaj Nimi. So Prabhupada, he says to Maharaj Nimi, my dear king, please know for certain that in the material world there is no happiness. It is simply a mistake to think that there is happiness here, because this place is full of nothing but miserable conditions. Kind of heavy to start off, but when he says there's no happiness, he says there's no permanent happiness. Because, of course, there is some happiness in this world, but it has a beginning and an end, and quite often it leaves us feel a bit let down and disappointed. So when we start to question, where can I find happiness? Why isn't there any happiness or permanent happiness? Why isn't there a solution to this? You begin your journey on the path of the Bhagavad-gita and your path in spiritual life. So in the Nectar of Devotion, there's 64 items of devotional service listed. The very first 3 items of the 64 are said to be the most important. And the first item is, actually, before I go on to mention what the items are, we should try and understand who is a spiritual master and who we should be asking questions of. So Arjuna, he's come to Krishna and he's asked Krishna to be basically asked if Krishna could be his spiritual master. So he's trying to take shelter of Krishna to get instructions from him. So that is the first step in spiritual life. So who is a spiritual master? So in the Nectar of Devotion, it mentions that first, a spiritual master is someone who has realized the conclusion of the scriptures and is also able to convince others of these conclusions. Prabhupada says in the purport that a spiritual master is someone who knows the science of Krishna consciousness. So a spiritual master is not simply just someone who is very learned in the scriptures, like a brahmana. A brahmana is someone who's very learned in the scriptures, but someone who is actually a Vaishnava, someone who is a devotee of the Lord, they are a spiritual master. Because spiritual knowledge is not simply understood on the level of the intellect. Spiritual knowledge and devotional service, Krishna consciousness, it takes place on a much deeper level. It takes place within the heart. So a spiritual master is someone who knows Krishna from within, who understands Krishna and has a loving relationship with Krishna. So in the Nectar of Devotion, it goes on to say that we must not accept someone who is full number one. So who's full number one? Full number one is someone who has no direction according to scriptural injunctions, whose character is doubtful, who does not follow the principles of devotional service, and who has not conquered the mind and senses. So a spiritual master, he just says what his spiritual master says. The spiritual master must come in the line of disciplic succession all the way from Krishna. The knowledge comes down from Krishna to the next spiritual master, down, down, down. And the principle of the knowledge doesn't change. So they never try and say anything of what they think or feel. It's just, as the Bhagavad-gita says, Bhagavad-gita as it is. Srila Prabhupada is giving us the Bhagavad-gita as it is, which means it is how Krishna spoke it 5,000 years ago. And it's not the Bhagavad-gita as I said it is, not how you said it is, or some rascal said it is. It's as it is, given to us by Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada was a pure devotee of Krishna. And a pure devotee is someone who captures Krishna. They capture Krishna with their love. And so that was Srila Prabhupada, who had pure love for Krishna. So it says in the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami says to accept the spiritual master is the crucial point of advancement in spiritual life. And so it goes on to say that the first 3 items of the 64 items of devotional service, the first 3 are most important. And they're the most important, and they're all to do with the spiritual master. So the first item is accepting shelter. So accepting shelter means, as Arjuna is doing now, he's surrendering himself to Krishna and asking him if he can please instruct him, and in that way Krishna will accept him. So on acceptance, that's the second item, actually, is accepting the initiation. So that's a vow of acceptance. The guru has accepted the spiritual master, and the spiritual master accepts the guru. And the third is accepting and receiving instructions from him is the third. So Srila Prabhupada in his purport, he says that so many people are basically trying to find happiness in so many ways, and they're trying to solve the problems of life. So there's so many problems within our life, but it said there's 4 main problems. It says in the purport, Prabhupada says, the problems of material existence ultimately are birth, old age, disease, and death. So there may be many other problems throughout our life, but they are the ultimate problems. And so we're going through life, birth, old age, disease, death. And then again, we take birth, old age, disease, death. And we're just going around in this cycle continuously, on and on and on. So that's the ultimate problem of life. Because you've been here before. It's not your first time. Especially if you've come here to the Krishna farm, more than likely you practiced in a previous life. So you're on the journey. One time someone said to me, I have good news and bad news. The good news is you've practiced Krishna consciousness before. The bad news is you messed it up and you have to come back. So quite often in our lives, if we're here practicing spiritual life, we did something in a previous life. And that's the beauty of spiritual life, is we never lose anything. We will never lose our spiritual credits. That bank account continues to grow more and more from one lifetime to the next. So Srila Prabhupada, he says that people are trying to find happiness and they're trying to solve the problems of life through things such as academic knowledge, scholarship, high position, wealth, and economic development. So people are so much absorbed in these things. So academic knowledge, everyone has to attend school, obviously, and I went to school also. But the modern educational system doesn't actually really get to the essence of what life is about. The modern educational system will teach you what to think. But it doesn't so much teach you how to think. So the modern educational system, yes, you turn up, you learn, you must learn. There's certain things you must learn, very helpful things to learn. But you basically just have to turn up, pass the exams, get a pass mark, go to university if you want, or get a job with whatever qualification you have. Make money, get on with life. And therefore people are confused. Because at some point in their life, if they haven't asked questions, they don't know what they're doing in life. If they haven't asked, who am I? Why am I here? What's the purpose of my existence? Then they feel completely lost. It doesn't matter how much knowledge you have. You can study and study and study, and it doesn't mean you become wise. Because real knowledge is to know yourself, know this material existence, know why you're here, know for how long you're here, and know where you're going. But people live their whole entire lives and they don't deeply question these things. So you can have knowledge, you can have a scholarship, you can have a high position, wealth, economic development. But these things are all temporary. You may get some relief, but you still have to go through the problems of life. One time someone said to me, I only need 3 things to be happy. I thought, all right. Money, time, and health. I thought, that sounds fair, like time, money, health. But then I thought about it, I thought, okay. When you're a child, you may have time, you may have health, you have no money. No money. Even if your parents give you a little bit of pocket money, still no money. In adult life, you may have money, you should have good health, but no time. During adult life, we're working so hard, no time to stop and actually enjoy life. And then, in old age, we have all the money saved up, ready to enjoy, and we have all the time, we have some time, our final years of our life, but no health. So this equation needs to be retired. Einstein once said, you can't solve the problems of this world with the same type of thinking that started them in the first place. So everybody's looking for happiness. Everybody's trying to solve the problems of life, but they're searching for it in the wrong place. Once there was a group of friends, and they were in New York City, and they were there for a holiday to enjoy. So they arrived, they checked into their accommodation, and straight away they said, right, let's go. Let's go out and explore New York City, the city that never sleeps. So the group of friends, they went out and they had a good time. They went to restaurants, nightclubs, cinemas, all kinds of things, had a great time. They were out all night long. Then they got back to their apartment, they got back to their accommodation. And it was about 3 or 4 in the morning when they got back. And they were staying on the penthouse suite, 100th floor of penthouse suite. So they were going all out to have a good time. So they got back and they were tired from a big night out. They just wanted to sleep. So they got back and they got to the lobby and they went to go to get into the lift. And there was a sign on the lift that said, lift out of order. So as you can imagine, if you're staying on the 100th floor and the lift's out of order, it's not good news. So one of them said, well, what to do? We might have to just bite the bullet, climb the stairs. So that's what they did. They went up the stairs. And so to make the time go faster, they decided they'd just tell each other stories. So one man said one story, another man said another story, a funny story, all kinds of stories, because they had a long way to go. So they had to get to the 90th floor, and when they got to they had to get to the 100th floor, but when they got to the 90th floor, one of them had been a bit quiet, and so they said, it's your turn to tell a story. Can you tell us a story? We want to hear from you. And this one man, he just said, put his head down, and he said, my story is tragic. He said, we've been out all night, we're tired, we've been climbing the stairs to get to the 100th floor, we're on the 90th floor, and I just realized we left the key to the door of our room at reception. So at that point, they were just about to throw this guy out the window. They were just like, well, what to do? So this is kind of like what people do in their lives. They just get on with their life. They don't actually stop to question how to find real happiness. They leave the key to happiness behind. The key to happiness lies within the spiritual master. And then we have to surrender to the spiritual master to get that key. So this word surrender, it's a difficult one. Because when I first came to Krishna consciousness, I was hearing this word surrender. I was like, I don't like the word surrender. It doesn't really resonate with me. Because all my life I played sport. I played competitive sport. A lot of sport, mostly football. So to surrender was never an option. Never an option. You would battle. You'd try to battle it out right to the final siren. I didn't want to lose, you know. I just wanted to always was so determined to give everything I got. I know I'm going to surrender to anybody. And then when I come to spiritual life, it's like the complete opposite. They're saying you surrender. You surrender in spiritual life. I say, I'm not surrendering. It's not for me. But anyway, I come to learn that surrender is actually, it's the beginning, and it's very, very powerful once you begin to start to let go. And you relieve yourself of so much pressure and anxiety, actually, when you actually just let go and allow Krishna, allow the spiritual master to start to work on your life. So, but it takes a lot of humility. So what is surrender? When you hear the word surrender, you just think, like the white flag, I can't do it, I'm too weak, I give up. That's what we tend to think. But surrender actually is just to do what Krishna wants. It's quite simple. And how do we know what Krishna wants? Well, we do whatever the devotees, we do whatever our seniors tell us or ask us to do, especially our spiritual master. We try to please our spiritual master. So many people think surrender, I just give up everything. Give up all my possessions, sell my car, sell my house, just live in a tent, just chant Hare Krishna, I'm surrendered. But no, you can do that, but that's not really surrender. Other people think, yeah, I'll just surrender, I'll take the devotional life and I'll start a temple or I'll start a farm community or, any great project or start a school. And that's great, you can do that. But that isn't necessarily surrender either. Because like I said, is that what your spiritual master asked you to do? Is that what your spiritual master wants you to do? Is that your dharma? So the spiritual master will instruct you on what, according to your nature, and empower you to do great things in accordance to that. So when we look for inspiration for surrender, we can look no further than our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. He is the epitome of surrender. When Srila Prabhupada, he was in his early 20s, a friend convinced him to go see this great sadhu. His name was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And his picture's there on the wall, on the left, furthest left. And that's who became Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master. So when Srila Prabhupada, he was 22, 23, something like that, his spiritual master, on the very first meeting, he looked at Srila Prabhupada and said, "You're an intelligent young man. Why don't you spread Krishna consciousness all over the world?" Pretty heavy instruction on the first meeting. But Srila Prabhupada, he took this instruction very seriously. He took it from deeply within his heart, and he committed himself to fulfilling this mission, this almighty mission. So when Srila Prabhupada, at the age of 69, he jumped on a boat or a ship from India to the US, Srila Prabhupada had 2 heart attacks on the way. And when he finally arrived, he had no health. He only had 40 rupees, so he had no wealth. He had no followers. He had no support. He had no means or plan or strategy of how he was going to fulfill this mission. But he had faith in Krishna, and he had faith in the words of his spiritual master. And therefore Srila Prabhupada went on to make Hare Krishna a household word. 108 temples, 5,000 disciples, all in 12 years. That is surrender. So when Srila Prabhupada, he achieved this mission of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world, he went back to India, and some of his god brothers and people in India, they were a little critical. They said, anyone could have done it. Anyone could have done it. After all, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu predicted it. Anyone could have done it. So in response to that, Srila Prabhupada, he said, he used a example of Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus discovered America. And when Christopher Columbus discovered America, all his fellow, what do you call them? Discoverers, or what's the word? Anyway, he also received criticism. They said anyone could have done it. And so what Christopher Columbus said is that, I have this egg. How can you stand this egg on its head? And everyone was just baffled, confused. How can you stand an egg on its head? And then Christopher Columbus went, popped the top, stood the egg on its head. Anyone could have done it, but I have done it. So Srila Prabhupada said that same thing to his god brothers, but he wasn't saying it out of pride, as in like, I have done it. It was all me. He was saying it because I have done it because I believed in the words of my spiritual master, and I followed his instructions 100%. So this word surrender, what is the result of surrendering? When we surrender and we experience failure in our life, we may become depressed. If we think that we're in control of our life, it's all me, I'm doing everything, I'm the doer, and if we experience failure, we become depressed, we become frustrated, don't we? But then if we experience failure and we know Krishna's controlling everything, we become accepting, we become determined. So then we think, okay, didn't work out this time. Maybe something better is coming. I tried my best. When we think we're in control of our lives, it's all me, I'm the doer, and we have success, we become proud, we become complacent, don't we? But then when we know that we're surrendered to Krishna and Krishna is in control and we have success, we become grateful, we become humble. I was just an instrument. If we think it's all me, think that I'm the doer, and if we have difficulties, we get angry and we start to blame others. But if we're surrendered to Krishna, we know that Krishna is controlling everything. We start to become reflective, and then we become progressive. If we think we're the doer, we think we're doing everything, it's all me, in change we'll become nervous and overwhelmed. But if we know that Krishna is controlling our life, and in change, when change comes, we become excited, we become confident. Krishna is in control. What has he got planned for me? If we think we're the doer, it's all up to me, when we have challenges, we start to feel inadequate. We start to become weak. But if we know that Krishna is in control, he's in charge of my life, then we become empowered. We become strong. In spiritual life, if we try to do it alone, good luck. Spiritual life needs to be done within association. That's the key to success, association. If we try to do it ourselves, eventually we'll start to feel hopeless, and we'll start to think the ultimate goal is just so far away. How am I ever going to do this? But in spiritual life, to make advancement, if we surrender to Krishna and we know that Krishna is controlling everything, we become very hopeful, and we know that, yeah, this is achievable. One time someone said to me, spiritual life is difficult, but material life is impossible. Spiritual life is difficult. You have to get up early in the morning, chant 16 rounds. It's not easy. But material life, it's like, whew. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. And anything you do, anything you achieve in material life, at the time of death, it's just all taken away. You lose everything. You can't take anything with you. But in spiritual life, any progress you make, if you don't achieve the success at the end of this life, it carries on to the next life. Nothing lost in spiritual life. Nothing lost, everything to gain. So this process of surrendering is actually the most beautiful and the most natural thing. And I'm trying to do this, trying to surrender more and more, but it's not easy. But I just know from my experience, when I come to the conclusion like Arjuna has, is that I just can't do it by myself. I tried so hard to be happy in this world, but what happened is the harder I tried, the more I suffered. And as soon as I come in connection with Srila Prabhupada. As soon as I saw Srila Prabhupada, as soon as I heard Srila Prabhupada's voice, all my anxieties just started to melt away. And I knew from that moment on what I had to do. I had to surrender to Srila Prabhupada. I had to surrender to anyone who is actually also following Srila Prabhupada. And it's actually not a difficult thing to do. We all have a spiritual master. And when we are sincere in our spiritual life and we pray to Krishna, please reveal my spiritual master. By the mercy of Krishna, he will reveal your spiritual master. And you will know your spiritual master. When I first started hearing Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada's first instruction was, you must take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. I thought to myself, okay, I'd like to take shelter of you, Srila Prabhupada, but unfortunately I can't take initiation from you, so who is most strictly following you? And very soon after, when I had that deep desire to want to follow someone who's strictly following Srila Prabhupada, my spiritual master came into my life. And within 5 minutes of hearing him speak, he made more sense in 30 odd years of my life in 5 minutes. And then I just knew from within, I knew who my spiritual master was. And I went to great lengths to connect with him, but it never seemed difficult. My spiritual master is based in Hungary, and I'm obviously here. And I don't like to travel. I've never really traveled, I get travel sickness. I've never been to Hungary, nothing. But I just knew that I had to do it. I had to do it. And I'm so fortunate. So that's surrender, and that is what Krishna is trying to teach us in this beginning of the second chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. And when you start to surrender to Krishna, or you start to surrender to your spiritual master, all starts to become revealed. And all the problems, not all the problems, but problems start to sort themselves out. So thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We've got 1 or 2 minutes if anyone would want to ask any questions. Thank you so much. Thank you. Do you want to get the microphone? Just so the online audience, there's usually a few people watching online.
Thank you. Do you believe that you can't receive your Dharma through Krishna directly and feel Krishna within you? That it needs to come from a spiritual master?
Yeah, I mean, you can only go so far trying to approach Krishna.
Okay.
You can get some distance.
Sorry?
You can travel so far, but ultimately, you need association and you need a guru. So the spiritual master is a bona fide representative of Krishna. So we all have a spiritual master, and they're Krishna for us within this world.
Okay.
So it's basically the same thing. It's recommended to have that personal relationship with a spiritual master, and then they can guide us, because they're our connection to Krishna.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying as in having someone to guide us, and it's important for somebody who's been like an elder or someone who's been on the path longer.
Yeah.
But do you believe that our Dharma cannot come through from Krishna to us directly? Like we feel like we know why we're here and we know what we're meant to be doing and we know that it's for Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah, we can have these feelings that we know our Dharma, we know Krishna, we know why we're here. But still, we can get lost in all of that. We need a spiritual master to keep us on the path, someone who can correct us and guide us. Some people need that personal relationship more than others, but we definitely, definitely.
I hear you, I understand. It was just the Dharma bit. You know, like the Dharma will come through your spiritual master. So I was just a little bit confused. I was just a bit confused about that part.
Yeah, well, there's two Dharmas. I mean, there's the Dharma of the material duty and the spiritual duty. So the material duty, you may already have a fair idea and understanding of that, but it's that spiritual connection. We have to connect. It's like a power. If you want to get a computer to work that has a flat battery or something, you have to charge it into a power plug to get that electricity. So the same thing in spiritual life, we have to be connected to the parampara system. And the parampara system is that guru and disciple that comes down from Krishna. So as soon as you get that connection, then you're connected and you're empowered by Krishna through that connection. So it's vitally important, especially for the spiritual side of things, the spiritual understanding, the spiritual Dharma, the material Dharma. You can basically work that out, or mostly work that out.
How do you know the difference in the two?
Well, the material Dharma is your occupation, your duty in this world. So you may be a teacher or a cook, or it's a role, it's a temporary role within this world, and it's according to our nature and our karma from our previous life. But the Swadharma, which is our spiritual, that is that we are a servant and we are eternal servant of Krishna, is understanding that we are spirit soul, and we have a spiritual relationship with Krishna as a servant. Is that?
Yeah, and they can't be the same.
You can combine them.
That's awesome. Because I just feel like what I'm feeling with Dharma, it feels like through being a servant, but it also feels, it's a little bit of both. Thank you. Thank you.
So you can do your material duty, and that's what is recommended in the Bhagavad-gita. So whatever your material Dharma is, your Swadharma is material, Sanatan is the eternal spiritual. So your material duty, you can do that and do it as your service, as in a way that you do it in a Krishna conscious way, which means that you do whatever your results are of that work that you do, you offer them to Krishna.
Yeah.
So that's
it feels more like what you're sharing, what I have in mind. It doesn't really feel like a material one. It feels like it's more of something that has come through you to share with others, and it's not yours and it doesn't belong to you. That's the way it feels. It doesn't really feel like a material. So I was just wanted to see, because this feeling's very clear and it hasn't came from a spiritual teacher. But thank you, that's brought a lot of clarity.
The spiritual starts by hearing and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So there's actually 9 processes of devotional service, and it starts by hearing and chanting. So that's how we connect with Krishna. So that's our spiritual process. But the material process, you can do that, whatever your work is, and then just connect it with Krishna. Give your results to Krishna, and that's how you can connect with your material Dharma. Does that help?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone. That was a little bit long.
Is that everyone? Anyone else have a question? What is... well, yeah, it's getting back to finding what is your Dharma. So we all have a unique Dharma. For me, living here, I was very fortunate because before taking the spiritual life, I was a groundsman. I worked on a golf course, worked on many sporting grounds. Did a lot of gardening, horticulture. But in my life, I've always felt there was something missing. Like I worked very hard, but I just felt like there was I don't know, like I was not achieving anything. So I was quite fortunate that when I actually took the spiritual life, I quit my job in 2018. Like Arjuna threw down his Gandiva bow and said, he's not going to fight. I threw down my whippersnapper and I said, that's it. I've had enough. No more. I'm exhausted. What is the purpose of all of this? You know, my health, everything I was losing. I was like, there's got to be a better way. And then soon Krishna came into my life. He brought me here, and now I do grounds maintenance around the temple, and I work in the banana field, growing bananas for the pleasure of Krishna. And then that gave me fulfillment in life. That was the thing that I was missing. And now I whippersnip all over the place. and yeah, my body hurts a bit, but at the end of the day, I lie down in bed and I think, okay, I'm doing it for Krishna, and I feel satisfied. So, yeah. Does that answer your question? Thank you. It was a good question. Thank you.